that you had on this subject. Your question was, if I understand correctly, feeling an emotion will cause an out of harmony emotion to dissipate. You mean an out of harmony with love emotion to dissipate, and a harmonious with love emotion to grow. Is this true for sinful desires? I've been hesitant to try it. Good question. Yes, it is true. Let's just rub this off. So let's look at emotion. Now, remember, emotions contained within the soul. It's there. If I'm not feeling it, it's still there, isn't it? So that's one thing I need to remember. Just because I'm not feeling it, it doesn't mean it's not there. So we've got to be careful, like with sinful desires sometimes, you can sort of say, oh, that was a sinful, no, just pop that out the side and suppress my feeling of that, in other words. Suppress my feeling of that. Now, the trouble is what we've learned about the soul already, if you look at the human soul and how it was made, we've done some discussion about that, you can see preclusion operates in the soul, which means that if you suppress one emotion, you're suppressing lots of emotions. You can't selectively choose emotions to suppress without actually causing a numbing down of all of your emotions. So this is why most people, when they get to be 40, 50, 60, they're already quite numb on a lot of issues because they're suppressing lots of different things, and there's barely anything now that they can feel. So there's a danger in suppressing the emotion, isn't there? So let's say the emotion is a sinful desire, right? Which is the question you've asked about. So let's say this emotion is actually a sin. What do I do with it? Now, what I'm saying is you have to feel it. Now, you can feel it without acting upon it, or you can feel it and act upon it, or you can suppress it. You can do any of those things. Which is the best choice? Well, if you feel it without acting upon it, it will flow through you and get released. And then you won't feel it as much anymore. Right? Now, you've been afraid to experiment with that. Why are we afraid to experiment with that? Because, what are we really afraid of?
Well, I was afraid that the emotion would grow.
Exactly. You're afraid of I'm having this sin is in me. I know this sin's in me, right? It's there. If I pat around it, put some protection layers around it, build up a nice eggshell around it, put some paper mache over the top of it, paint it with pretty colours, it's no longer there. Is that the truth?
Well, this was sexual desire. And so it was
I know what it's about. Isn't that the truth? You think that if you cover it all over and just make out that it's all just going to go away?
Well, no, I wanted to make it go away. But I thought that if I kept feeling that would just feed it.
Yeah, no, if you've got a sinful emotion and you recognize it as, and is sexual desire a sinful emotion?
No, but this was not soulmate desire.
How do you know that?
Logically.
So your intellect is telling you.
Well, my understanding about soulmates is there's a geographical, obviously I don't know. But given that...
That's the first point of honesty. Yes. You don't know. So stop telling yourself you know by logic. You don't know. You can't feel your soulmate, can you?
No.
No. Okay. But you do feel sexual desire for somebody, obviously.
Right.
Right. I said you can feel your sexual desire without acting upon it.
Right.
Right. Can't you?
Or can you? So.
You can. Everybody can.
Yeah.
It's just whether you want to or not, doesn't it?
I can.
See, a lot of times what we're afraid of is that if I feel it, I'll act upon it. See, with sexual desires, it's very interesting because a lot of times our sexual desires flow through us, but they're based on other things other than sex. The reason why we're often attracted to people has got nothing to do with sex. I think it was in Greece I did a discussion where I talked about the body, the human body, and the chakra points of the human body, right? 7 or whatever it is there is, 1, 2, 3. It depends who you are, of course, how many there are, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. Let's say we've got a sin, an emotion, that is a sin inside of us that causes the chakra to rotate in a certain area that's opposite to how it should be. And the other person's got the corresponding energy which will feed that emotion, that vortex of sin, if you like. We're naturally attracted to them. And because that opens up the flow of energy in us, we now have a sexual feeling for them as well, right? But is a sexual feeling actually attraction? Or is it just the fact that being around that person opens up a few of the places that you've been closed down and now you feel an attraction? So you don't know, do you? So unless you feel what the attraction is about, how are you ever going to identify whether there's sin in it or not?
So you're saying to feel the emotion so that I can feel what it's about.
Yeah, of course. If you don't feel what it's about, what you're doing is suppress. Oh, this might be bad, might be wrong. You don't know one way or the other. You assume that it might be wrong, so you're going to suppress it and put it all away. But you know what that does? That just comes back and bites you at some point in the future.
So the intention. So I need the intention of feeling why I have the attraction.
Yes. And frequently it's because being with that person makes you feel something about yourself that you've never felt before. And that doesn't mean that it's your soulmate. And it doesn't mean even that you're even sexually attracted to them. It just means that it opens up a part of you that you've not had opened up before. And because that part is flowing, now some sexual energy flows in you. Right? And so the sexual energy is almost sometimes a subsequent result of this other issue, which is the real problem. That you need a certain feeling from a person, and that particular person gives you that feeling. You follow me?
Yeah.
So when I first met you, you were with a person who basically dominated you, and you were with them for a reason, right? And that reason made you feel attracted to them. They felt assured, they felt positive, they felt in control of their life to you. They weren't. When I look at the guy, you know, when I first met him, I go, he's not very in control of his life, but you felt he was. He made you feel then safe and secure and everything. And so you feel a sexual attraction to him. But was it really sexual attraction? Isn't it just attraction opening up the sexual flow in you because of these other things?
Can I ask you a couple of questions then?
Sure. Are we now talking about sin, or are we now talking about your personal life?
No, about sexual attraction and about soulmates.
Sure. Because a lot of our sins are about sex. They are.
Does the feeling of sexual attraction feel the same as that vortex feeling?
Well, for most of us, it does, yes. But it's not true. It's not how it is when you meet your soulmate, no. But for most of it, it does, because we don't understand that the sexual flow, for any emotion to flow, it's got to flow through the soul, right? The more of our energy points that are blocked, the more blockage there is to the flow of that kind of emotion. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, for example, I can be a very angry man, and if I'm with a woman who's very timid, right? Who's very timid, right? I'm going to feel sexually attracted to her because I know she's going to do whatever I want, right? I'm going to think she's my soulmate.
Right.
It's not true. The thing that's opening me up is I'm angry and I'm not feeling my anger. And whenever I'm with a timid woman, she'll accept my anger and rage as a part of me and put up with it. And so I feel attracted to her because she's allowing me to have one of my feelings that I would otherwise have to block. Mm. Do you follow?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now I think, oh, I'm sexually attracted. And this timid woman now feels she's sexually attracted to me too. Because when I'm around this angry man, he's sort of out there and he's like in everyone's face and everything. He's going to protect me, look after me. That's the feeling. It's not very real because the reality is he's just likely to bop you in the nose, right? But we believe it to be true. He opens up some chakras in her about her worth and her safety, third chakra here, you know, worth, second chakra, opens up those kind of chakras. And of course, they're very closely related to our sexual feelings. Open those up and I'll get some sexual feelings too, right? And then I go, wow, I'm just horny for the guy.
Yeah.
Right? Is it true? Not really. I'm just horny for the feeling of feeling like someone will look after me and that someone's going to care for me and someone's going to protect me.
Okay.
Do you see? That's completely different than actually wanting, like having a sexual relationship with the person. You're really having a sexual relationship with their injury.
With the addiction.
Yeah. There's a sexual relationship between your injury and their injury.
So we'll be able to feel that. It'll feel like sexual attraction, but if we feel it carefully, we'll be able to tell
If
the
you're
difference.
honest, you've got to be honest. You listen to God. See, God can tell you all these things. You say, yeah, you know, this guy's a pretty angry man and you're attracted to him. What's going on? You know, he'll tell you things like that. You know, there's things going on here that, or this guy's a man you can dominate and that's why you like him. You know, you've had a series of men you couldn't dominate and then you got sick of them, right? Kick them off out of your life. Then what do you want now? You want a man who you can dominate, right? You get a man you can dominate. Now you feel attracted to him. And some sexual flow happens because now you can dominate him because you've had these bad experiences before, parts of the injuries. So you feel sexually attracted to him. But is he your soulmate? Probably not, eh? Possibly not. Who knows? You're not going to know until you work your way through the reason why you want to dominate the man, which is the history of the grief associated with the reason why men dominated you. Do you see? And then you go through that and then you realise, I'm not even attracted to this guy. What was I attracted to this guy for?
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Question about the soulmates. So if the soulmate part of my soul is not open, can I feel sexually attracted to my soulmate, or will it just be addiction? It'll just be addiction again.
Yep. If the soulmate part of your soul isn't open and you've got all these injuries regarding the opposite gender, even if you meet your soulmate, you probably won't even recognise them. You know what I mean? But if you do recognise them, it will be highly likely because they've got exactly the same injuries that meet those addictions in you, right? Either way, you still got to address the issue, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the way to address the issue is to feel the emotion and work your way through the issue of why am I attracted to this person? You know, you can talk to God. Is this person what I imagine them to be? Or are they really like I'm thinking they are? Because quite often it's quite different, right? Quite often we want to believe the person we're attracted to has all these qualities. We imbue them with all of these qualities that they don't even have.
Because that's meeting our addictions also.
Well, because they're meeting our addiction in the sexual way, we now want justification for why we feel this fantastic feeling we feel with them, right?
Yeah, okay.
So we will paint a pretty picture over the top of what's ever there and have the relationship with that. And like I said, most sexual relationships are actually a relationship between two injuries that are not related to sex at all. They're related to other emotions that we need fulfilled in our life that are not fulfilled. And we are using, and they open the flow of emotion in us. And so we feel a sexual flow as a part of the opening up of those emotions. But it's not actually, like I said, we're sexually attracted to them feeding my injury, which is not sexual attraction really, is it?
No. Okay, great.
So frequently people who are soulmates have very different sexual injuries. And so when they walk past each other in the street, they don't even recognise each other because they only are recognising the people or attracted to the people who meet their sexual injury-based demands. And your sexual injuries are not just related to sex, they're related to how you feel about yourself, how afraid you are, how much grief you have, how much truth you speak. You know, all of the chakra points are all related. And the more of them that open with a person at the same time, the more flow of sexual energy there's going to be.
Okay, so when one chakra starts moving, then the other ones also.
Well, the next one gets a bit of a knock on the door then as well, doesn't it? And so forth. And usually the people we're attracted to usually have 2 to 4 of the chakra points with the flow of specific emotion in harmony with ours. That's all it needs, 2 to 4. And it's funny, when you work through those 2 to 4 emotions, you go from feeling like sexually attracted to them, feeling overwhelmed by their presence, to feeling like they're a pain in the neck.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Because once you close down it all and they still have the emotional demands they have open, you'll then go, this is terrible. This is not what I'm looking for. And this is why we've got to be very careful by acting immorally sexually. Every time we act immorally sexually, we're just usually feeding some of these other needy feelings that we have within us, and we're using the sexual relationship as an excuse to feed them because sex feels nice occasionally. And so what we're doing is we're feeding them. And then when we work through those issues, we realize, wow, I'm not even sexually attracted to them anymore. So why were you sexually attracted in the first place? It has to be because you're sexually attracted to their injury.
Right.
And their injuries fed your needs. Yeah. It's codependent emotional barter is really what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've had a life of that when we met you, up until we met you. You had a life of codependent emotional barter with angry men most of the time. So you know that that's the life you've lived up until that point. So the key thing now to do is to work through those injuries emotionally.
Well, this was a totally different kind of...
It's going to be a flip side of that,
yeah,
eh?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you can see why. I've already given you the explanation as to
Yep,
why.
I heard you, yeah.
Yeah, because you're sick and tired of those men.
Yep.
Now you want a different one.
Yep, I got one.
You want one you can...
Yep.
Not quite like that, but you know what I mean?
Well, I hope I wouldn't do that, but I could.
But someone
but I could.
you can control. Someone who will pander to what you believe your needs are.
Yeah, he's very compliant.
Yeah, and he does, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
It's different.
So not a good sign.
No.
No, because all you're doing is in past relationships, you've had a balance of power that's been you here, the man in the power. Now you have enough of those relationships, what happens? You get angrier and angrier usually, right? And then it becomes like, I'm sick of those men. Now what do you want?
Someone I can control, sure.
Someone where you're in the power.
Yeah.
Are either one loving?
No.
No. So got to let yourself work through that. Yeah.
Okay.
Good day.
Thank you.
No worries. Good question though. Good question. Okay. How are we going time?